Over time, I've said the same thing in different ways, and people still pretend it's controversial. Companions aren't tourists. They're not audience inserts, they're not mascots, and they're not emotional support animals for the Doctor's ego. They're people dragged through repeating patterns of violence, instability, authority structures, and moral chaos. And the show just pretends that exposure doesn't leave marks. Classic Who didn't track psychological consequence because the format didn't care to. Reset button, storytelling, episodic morality, trauma off-screen, but structure still does the damage, whether the script acknowledges it or not. When you repeatedly put a character in the same functional role, the assistant, the subordinate, the moral anchor, the emotional buffer, the liability, the negotiator, that role becomes identity. And identity becomes pressure. Pressure becomes fracture. Modern storytelling wouldn't change what happens to them. It would just stop pretending it doesn't matter. Welcome to the Snake Pit, where we're full of bile and venom. I'm your host, Snake Dæmon, and today we're getting back to the companion question. Not as nostalgia, not as trivia, and not as favorite character fluff, but as consequence. Not what happens to them in isolated stories, but how the series itself shapes them over time. Because companions aren't defined by moments, they're defined by repetition. And their ultimate challenges aren't single events. They're long-term conditions created by the roles they're forced to occupy. And this is just my opinion. But it's based on pattern, not sentiment. When it comes to Liz Shaw, her ultimate challenge is built into her introduction structural redundancy. She's not brought in as a companion. She's brought in as a consultant, a scientific authority figure, an intellectual equal, someone positioned to advise UNIT and stabilize the Doctor's chaos. And the show immediately undercuts it. We literally see her being interviewed. We're explicitly told that if the Doctor were available, her role wouldn't even be necessary. Her position exists as a placeholder, a contingency. And then the Doctor arrives and she's sidelined in her own function. Not because she's incompetent, but because the narrative doesn't know how to hold two authorities in the same space. Liz isn't challenged by monsters, she's challenged by irrelevance. She's constantly positioned as capable, rational, professional, and then structurally displaced. She becomes support staff in a system she was meant to help lead. Her competence doesn't protect her, it marginalizes her. Over time, that creates a companion whose defining pressure is redundancy, being the smartest person in the room and still unnecessary. Her challenge isn't survival or fear, it's displacement, being qualified for a role the narrative refuses to let her occupy. Jo Grant is the opposite problem. Her challenge is emotional displacement, not structural. You can point to the master, you can point to hypnosis, you can point to sacrifice in the daemons, but those are events, not patterns. Jo's defining challenge is romantic dependency and attachment instability. From the moment she enters the series, her life structure is unstable. Her uncle gets her the job and vanishes from the narrative, effectively dumping her into UNIT custody. She's positioned as someone who doesn't listen to advice, constantly gets into danger, and needs guidance. And what the series does is replace one absent authority figure with another. The Brigadier becomes surrogate father, structure, discipline, and moral anchor. But emotionally, she's never stable. Romantic entanglement becomes a repeating pattern, not development. Peladon, Latep, Clifford Jones, proposal after proposal, emotional projection after emotional projection. She latches, detaches, resets, repeats. It's not romance, it's displacement behavior. Her ultimate challenge isn't danger, it isn't fear, it isn't even sacrifice. It's identity through attachment. Jo is constantly defined by who she connects to rather than who she is. The Doctor is emotionally unavailable. The Brigadier is paternal, so relationships become substitutes for grounding. She's always reaching for stability outside herself, and that's why her exit isn't heroic, it's relational. She doesn't leave because the universe is too dangerous. She leaves because she finally finds a structure that feels stable enough to live inside. Her challenge is not learning bravery, it's learning how not to disappear into other people. Sarah Jane Smith is cleaner, sharper, and more tragic in a quieter way. Her ultimate challenge is suppressed truth. She's a journalist, an investigator, a moral absolutist. Her instinct is exposure. Her identity is built on revelation, uncovering corruption, publishing injustice, dragging secrets into daylight. And in her very first story, she enters the Doctor's world through deception, a false identity, false credentials, assumed authority. She sees alien invasions, secret government operations, time travel, global threats, cosmic-scale manipulation. And she doesn't publish the biggest story in human history, not because she can't, not because she's afraid, but because of loyalty. Her moral compass doesn't disappear. It redirects. She continues to expose human corruption, human evil, human abuse of power. But she protects the Doctor's secret. She protects the reality of the universe itself. She carries the ultimate truth and chooses silence. That's her challenge. Not danger, not monsters, not loss. Selective silence. Living with the knowledge that the biggest story she will ever know is the one she will never tell. Choosing friendship over truth. Loyalty over revelation. Connection over profession. Now that's not small, that's not sentimental, that's identity fracture. This is why the ultimate challenge framework matters, because companions aren't defined by their scariest episode. They're defined by the roles the narrative traps them in. Liz is trapped in redundancy. Jo is trapped in attachment. Sarah Jane is trapped in silence. Not events, not monsters, not moments, but that's these three specifically. Patterns, structures, functions that harden into identity. And that's the part Doctor Who never tracks, but absolutely creates. Thanks for dropping by the Snake Pit, where we thrive on untapped potential and lost opportunities. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell, like the video, and leave your opinions in the comments, where naturally I won't read them. Until next time, stay venomous.